Paranormal in Pennsylvania may discuss topics such as suicide, murder, and other potentially upsetting things. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, and welcome to Paranormal in Pennsylvania,
where we discuss history and hauntings.
Today's story takes us right here in Pittsburgh. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Erica.
Let's get into it. So today we are talking about the Aviary here in Pittsburgh. And before this research, I did not realize it's the National Aviary.
Really?
Yeah, it's the Aviary.
That's so interesting. I don't think I knew that either.
Yeah, and I had absolutely no clue. I went there for a work party when I worked at the Science Center.
Yeah.
I guess the museums have like reciprocity for parties. And I had absolutely no clue. I feel like I didn't appreciate it enough.
Right.
Knowing that it's the Aviary.
Well, and that's interesting to me because it seems like such a small city to have the National Aviary in.
Right. Why isn't it in Philadelphia?
Right. Or like New York.
Yeah, right. So some history of the Aviary. The building is located at 700 Arch Street, and that's on Pittsburgh's north side. For those of you that know, if you're looking at like the rivers, this is the north side. And it's the only independent indoor nonprofit aviary in the whole United States.
That's interesting. It's nice that it's nonprofit.
Yeah, it really is. I didn't know that. I guess in my head, I kind of assume all museums are.
Yes.
But that's not the case. And it's also the country's largest aviary.
Okay. I guess that makes sense if it's the national one.
Right. But even of private ones, it's the biggest.
Oh.
Which I don't know if there are private aviaries, but I would assume since they specify nonprofit.
Right. That there would be.
I don't specialize in aviaries. I'm
right.
not an aviary connoisseur. So the National Aviary began in 1952 as the Pittsburgh Aviary Conservatory because it previously held the North Side Conservatory as well. So it was actually plant focused.
Oh.
And then they added birds and then they took away the plants.
Right. Which is sad. I would have liked the plants.
Well, we do have Pittsburgh Botanical Gardens and Phipps Conservatory.
Yes, I was going to say. Phipps is a good one, so right. We at least have that.
And they do still have a lot of plants there for the bird species. It's just not as focused.
Gotcha.
The building expanded in 1967, and the city actually halted funding in 1991 due to changes in city budgets.
Okay.
The locals were so upset about this because the National Aviary is a big claim to fame, and it has been around at this point for almost 40 years.
Yeah.
That in 91 and 93, they rallied to raise funds and get it national status.
Yay.
So that they could
That's
save
great.
the birds. And it was further modernized following that in 1997 with the increased funds.
Okay.
And in the 2000s, they really expanded, adding education centers and expanding exhibit space. When you visit today, you can experience more than 600 birds of 150 species.
That's so many.
Right, and it's super cool. I mean, there's a big room with like tropical birds. There's a display with penguins where you can like crawl underwater into their tank and they can like
really
swim
cool.
around you. So we should go.
Yes, well, and I think the education center that you mentioned is probably a really cool part of it because as someone who's terrified of birds, it would be good. I mean, I feel like, you know, you got to educate yourself. You can't just be scared of something and not.
Yeah. It is a little loud and hectic in like the rain. I think it's called the rainforest room.
Yeah.
Because they're just flying around and like cawing.
They're out?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. We're never going. I thought they were like separate from the humans.
They might have been. I don't think they were.
That's so funny.
They don't land on you. They don't want to be around you. They just like fly above you from what I remember. But I haven't been there since I think 2018, 2017.
I guess that makes sense if you're in an aviary.
You're there for the birds.
Right.
It's like a butterfly room but with birds, which does sound a little more terrifying when I put it that way.
Yeah.
So it goes back further, and this blew my mind. You know Eastern State Penitentiary?
Yes.
This land had a Western State Penitentiary.
Really?
Which I have never heard of.
Me either. It's funny because it makes sense if it's going to be named Eastern State that
there would be a Western.
But I just never put that together. I mean, I just thought.
Yeah, and even when I went on the informational tour at Eastern State, they never mentioned a Western State. Mm-hmm. It seems like it was briefer. It was active from 1826 to 1880, but that's still 54 years.
Yes. And you would think if they're kind of named after each other, they would communicate in some
Right.
capacity.
Right, but it does make sense, especially back then when it probably took days to get across the state.
True. True.
So the Union used this as a prison during the Civil War, which we will see is very important to the hauntings. So, moving into the hauntings. During the Civil War, 100 of General Morgan's men were imprisoned in Western State Penitentiary, and many actually died there because prisons were a nightmare at this time. I mean, there's still work to be done today, but in 1826 to 1880, terrible.
Yes. Oh,
Not
yeah.
surprising that people died there.
No.
One of them died while trying to escape, actually, and it's said that the ghosts of all of these soldiers still haunt the aviary. They're particularly active at night,
Okay.
and people think this is because the guards didn't patrol as much at night, so it would make sense that they're acting as a spirit as they would have while they were alive.
That does make sense.
Yeah.
And there's I mean, I guess this is true for most haunted places, but there's obviously like less people in public
Right.
at night, so maybe that too, like just
Right.
the crowds are gone.
They show up as shadow figures in the shape of soldiers, and they are sometimes accompanied by the sound of gunshots.
Oh, that's
Listen, that can't be good for the birds.
what I was thinking about. Like, do the birds hear it? Because if so, they're probably terrified.
That can't be good.
No.
Maybe they don't, maybe they're used to it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Others report seeing full figures of Confederate soldiers marching through the hall at night.
That must be really jarring.
Right. Especially because I feel like when we see full soldiers at other places like Brandywine Battlefield, people think they're reenactors.
Right.
Here you're in the aviary.
Right.
You're not a reenactor. That is a
Surrounded by
spirit.
birds, and then there's just like a war soldier walking down the hallway.
Yeah. That must be very jarring to see.
Yes.
Additionally, staff report footsteps and loud bangs in the early morning
Okay.
or after hours. So it's not that it's a night haunting. I think you were saying like there's less people there. That's when they're active. I think a lot of people think, oh, spirits are only active at night. That's not necessarily the case.
Right.
It could be for a lot of reasons that they are seen more at night. Especially, it must be hard to see if you hear footsteps and it's in the day and there's people in the aviary, you're going to think nothing of it.
Yes. And that's actually a fair point. I didn't even think about that. But usually if you're surrounded by a group of people, anything you hear, you're just going to write off as somebody in the
Right.
crowd.
Yeah.
Which I didn't even think about. But yeah.
Yeah, so who knows? It could be happening all day. During the day, staff report feeling watched. And this happens even when they're alone in staff-only areas, like prepping food for the birds or taking care of the birds. So the staff do think that it's haunted.
Okay.
Specifically, the kitchen is haunted,
Really?
which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
And a radio. And we talk a lot about the spirits not knowing something.
Yes.
Were radios prevalent? When were radios invented? Radios invented U.S.
I don't know why, but all I'm thinking about is that Captain America scene where he wakes up and there's a baseball game playing over a radio. So whenever that was set.
1890s. So no. So the radio has been known to turn itself on and off while specific staff members are in the kitchen.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and they thought, okay, Erica's telling me the radio's turning on and off all the time. Erica's making this up.
Right.
But then one day it would be like, we're both in there, and it would do it when you're with me in there, but not when I'm alone. So they think that the ghosts like certain people and are trying to interact by turning the radio on and off.
Right.
Only when certain people are present.
Right.
So all of the claims have been seen by two people, so it's no longer just one staff member saying it.
Gotcha.
It really narrows down, in my mind, the possibility of any electrical issues. Thinking of it from a skeptic's lens, there's no way that it's just shorting out every time one person's in the kitchen.
Right. That would be way more random.
Right. During one of the few investigations held here, one male spirit did take responsibility for doing this. And he said that it was to get the female staff members' attention.
Oh, God.
So funny.
Yeah, that is kind of funny. Also, I mean, like, it's nice that they're using music and not, like,
Right.
hair pulling or other
Banging,
things.
yeah.
Music's nice.
Yeah. The same male spirit said that all the spirits there did love watching the birds and would also often follow staff around to watch them care for the birds because they're invested in them.
That's kind of nice.
It's so sweet.
I was going to say, if anything, it is kind of nice that it turned into an aviary because it's probably very peaceful
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah. Probably more so when it was just plants. But
Also true. Also
still,
true.
I mean, that's what I was thinking. If you have to be stuck somewhere after you pass away, a place like a museum seems like a pretty cool place to do it.
Yes, well, because think of Eastern State. The place is really cool. We have not been yet. Well, I have not been. The place seems really cool. It seems like a very interesting haunted place to visit. But it's still the same building. It's the same environment that these individuals were in, and that obviously probably is traumatic for them.
Yeah.
So it is kind of nice maybe that it did get turned into a sanctuary for birds.
That's true. Not even that it got a bonus that it's for birds, but the point of just it not being a jail anymore. Like, even if it was a
Yes.
private residence, at least it wouldn't be a jail.
Right, and maybe that's why these ghosts seem to be more pleasant than the ones that we talked about at
That's
Eastern
true.
State.
That's a good point. So they asked him, because they wanted to confirm that it was actually a spirit there, they asked him to confirm how many people were in the room, and he confirmed that there were 6 investigators. And I was trying to think of why they did this, though.
Yeah.
If they already had clear communication, maybe proof of interaction with the outside world, because I know that sometimes we say that the birds seem oblivious. No, the ghosts seem oblivious to modern day.
Yes.
So I was wondering if it was that, but it's interesting to me that they asked him for proof.
Yeah. I that's an interesting point. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe it was not for them or for the ghost. Maybe it was for skeptics or something.
That's true. Right, because if something's coming through and telling you an accurate number.
Yeah. Can't argue with that.
Right.
Visitors, this is the first time the visitors come into play,
Okay.
have reported feeling the presence of people while alone in the hallways or the atrium specifically. And some report feeling taps on their shoulders,
Ooh.
which I think would be pretty weird. But again, I think in a crowd, you can almost, well, it says while alone. I think in a public place, you can almost explain away anything.
Yes, I agree.
Like, oh, maybe someone did walk by and happened to tap me.
Right.
So I think maybe that's why the visitors don't have as many hauntings to talk about.
Right. That does make sense to me. It's interesting that they're in the hallways.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if, like, maybe the rooms were like the cells and the hallways were the hallways.
Yeah, or I was thinking maybe they just don't want to be in a confined space, period, anymore.
Oh,
Because, like, the
that's true.
atrium's huge, too.
That's true. Yes. I forgot about the atrium.
Yeah. The YouTube channel Stranger Times investigates haunted locations, and they went there, and unfortunately it was closed, but they still walked around the property. They said that they felt like the whole place had an overall cursed feeling, and they did know the history before they went.
Okay.
But I think that you could definitely get those vibes on a dreary Pittsburgh day, like walking around by yourself.
Right.
The building itself, like I said, was closed, so they just went through the gardens. However, they did hear the sound of banging on iron bars.
Oh.
And I tried to think about this. It's on the North Shore. We know Pittsburgh always has road work, but specifically metal on metal.
That's what I was gonna. That seems weird, especially because we've already said that the birds are just out in the open. Like, there's no cages or
yeah.
anything inside, so that seems weird.
Right. And they said that they thought that it was hearing the trapped soldiers banging on the iron bars of the penitentiary.
Right.
Also, during the time, they heard it and they circled back around to the front because they wanted to look in the windows to see if they could see anything. Maybe there was something going on.
Right.
And at that time, a woman ran out of the building. She appeared to be a cleaning lady, and they said that she ran out and looked very scared and didn't go back in. So I wonder if something had happened inside the building.
At the same time that they heard this stuff. That's so crazy.
I was thinking maybe she saw one of the ghosts of the soldiers, and it was at the same time as the banging, and so she got startled. I am sad, however, as I always am with zoos, etc., that there was no bird hauntings. Although I guess how would you know
Yes.
if it was a spirit bird or a
real
bird? But
True.
but
There's too much squawking. You can't
yeah,
differentiate between the real ones and the fake ones.
I am not what is it, ornithologist? I cannot tell between a ghost penguin and a real penguin.
Right.
They don't teach that.
No.
So, to wrap up, would you go to this place of paranormal phenomena?
I would. I know I joked in the beginning that I would never go there, but I think it's time. I think there's been so many times that I had an opportunity to go and didn't. And I think the hauntings are not malicious. So it
Yeah.
seems like it would be pretty cool. And I really do like learning about the Civil War. It's one of my favorite time periods, so
Yeah, we would
I would go.
if we go, we should do like this is deeper into the Civil War history because they're not going to tell us that there.
Right.
They do have Halloween events.
Oh.
As we are recording, it is November 1st, so we missed it. But we can always catch that next year.
Yeah.
There's no specific ghost hunt. I think the Halloween events are meant more to appeal to children, but that does not mean we can't go.
Right.
Because Halloween's for everyone.
Yes.
And I would definitely go back. It's just a cool place, and I think not often appreciated a lot. I don't think a lot of people love aviaries, like people like
Yeah.
conservatories, but it's a big deal, like you said, that the national one's in Pittsburgh. You can see so many different species and stuff. It's really cool to, expand your knowledge. So
Yes.
we should go.
Agreed. Oh yeah. No, we definitely should.
Yeah, I'd love to go back.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So that is the National Aviary, located right here in Pittsburgh on the north side. Let us know if you would go, one, if you're scared of birds, and two, if you'd go with all of the ghosts that it has. Thank you for tuning in for this week's episode, and tune in next Thursday to see what we cover next.